This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and it is a beautiful Wednesday here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and happy Beast Day to you as well.
Happy Beast Day. Yep. Happy anniversary to
it's my anniversary as well. Right.
Matt and his beautiful wife, Nikki. And Steelers have more visitors today.
Yeah, let's dig right into that.
It is heating up. We're about, I think this, by my reckoning, we're now had about 20 guys in, so they got 10 more visits, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
They could have some local guys that come in as well that bump that number up even more.
Okay.
But
that's tis the season for that, right?
Tis the season. The visits today. Two very significant players coming in today.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that we have drafted multiple times in the first round of our mock drafts.
Yeah.
Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon, and Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina. They also had Ollie Gordon, the running back from Oklahoma State, in today.
I'm not a huge Gordon fan. We'll get that one out of the way. But I do think the fact that Gordon and Hampton were here.
Two bigger backs.
And I say they're not married to 4'3", accelerator, smaller guy.
Although Hampton can still.
I mean, he can scoot. He's going in the first round.
Yeah.
Really good player. I wonder how high he'd be up on their 21 board. You know what I mean? And probably similar to us, I would think.
Pretty high,
I mean, it'd be really useful for right now.
Again, I when we did our board, we had Hampton ahead of him.
Hampton ahead of who?
Or we had Harmon ahead of Hampton.
Yes, all three of the D linemen.
But it was not
they were
far away.
Right. They were close. So it's funny. I did a podcast last night just kind of doing a profile on Grant, Nolan, and Harmon. And basically the whole preface of the podcast is get used to these guys. There's a really good chance this is your first pick.
Yeah.
And I got tons of feedback. I'm like, Matt, I don't think you're reading this right. None of these guys have been in on visits. I'm like, one shows up today. Yeah. And so it's not over yet. One shows up today. I didn't know that. And I have a pretty good idea that they have a pretty good hunch who these dudes are.
Well, I mean, if you think about it as well, they went to some of the pro days with some of these top guys as well. So you don't necessarily, you mentioned this last week, if you go to their pro day, you talk to them at the combine, you talk to them at the Senior Bowl or wherever else, you don't need to bring that guy in for a visit.
You don't. But actually, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, we know Omar and Tomlin were not at Mississippi.
They were not.
And they were not at Michigan.
They were not.
Because of Rodgers,
But
right? They almost always are, right?
Could be coming in.
Maybe they are or not. It doesn't mean they're not interested.
And it goes back to what I talked. Harmon, to me, is the best fit. If you're looking for a 3-4 defensive end that looks like Cam Hayward, that looks like Aaron Smith, that looks like Stephon Tuitt.
Yeah.
Some of these guys.
I mean, the arm length is
great. The height, everything. That's Harmon.
It is. I like the other two slightly better because I hadn't done that, but on the end of the podcast I recorded yesterday, I'm like, well, I should at least rank these three of who I like. And I went Nolan, Grant, Harmon. But I'm real comfortable with all of them.
Yeah, I mean, And you mentioned the Beast came out today for Dane Brugler's Beast on The Athletic. You can always check that out on there. It's way more reading.
It's worth your whole subscription for
You can sit down and read this thing from now until the start of the draft.
Yeah.
And you might not be done.
You might not be done. And what's crazy about it,
he has Harmon ranked number 2.
Does he?
Among his defensive tackles.
Okay. I have not looked at the rankings yet. That's tonight's project. But the other thing about the Beast, too, is his analysis is wonderful. Dane's a very good
But he does all the background stuff.
I'd say the background is like reading its own novel.
Like there's
all these guys, different paths.
There's stuff in there that I didn't like. I was reading a Jackson Dart while we were waiting to do the show. I didn't realize Jackson Dart transferred high schools 3 times.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't know.
People are killing Walter Nolan for that.
Yeah.
That's today's athlete.
It is. And one thing I read just in the last 24 hours about Nolan is one of the character things. I guess he exploded in a Mississippi practice and stormed off one time. Like, I don't care. So what? He's emotional. I really don't care. And that doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah,
that was on ESPN today.
That's why Mike Tomlin gets paid the big bucks to deal with that.
Right. Okay. And a little bit emotional. That's fine. Once he got mad at practice, I don't care.
Maybe he was emotional.
What's that?
I'm not comparing Walter Nolan to Antonio Brown, but he was emotional.
There's been some Steelers
that are
emotional
dudes.
Yeah, James Harrison, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You got Cam Hayward in that room. They'll be fine.
53 new guys every year. There's going to be some guys that have a different.
Absolutely.
So
all three of those guys.
The job of the head coach is to manage that stuff.
All three of those guys to me are very, very appealing.
Yeah.
And Harmon would be a great fit. I mean, good that he was in.
Yeah. Hampton.
Yeah.
When I tweeted that out earlier today that Hampton was in for a visit, and somebody said, "Oh, he'd be a great complimentary back to Jaylen Warren." I'm like, "Oh no, you got that backwards."
Yeah. He's one of the few that would be the one.
Guy.
He would be the one.
Jaylen would stay in his third down role.
Right.
And Omari and Hampton would be there getting 250 to 300 touch guy.
And there would be third downs where Hampton's out there too, and passing situations, and vice versa. It's not like Warren can't handle 1st and 10 or first, but second it would be 2 either. He would be your leading rusher.
Lead back, and
yes,
Jaylen Warren would be your number 2.
Yes, he's one of the few that I think that's definitely the case. I'm not sure about the Ohio State guys, if I would definitely say that. But if you're using a first-round pick on Hampton, you're going to ball.
That's the thing. You're going to give the guy the ball.
It's the investment.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's interesting. I don't know that he makes it past Denver at 20.
That's going to be a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Unless they decide to go receiver or one of those tight ends are there.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them taking one of those pass catchers to make life easier on Mitch as well.
I mean, they signed Ingram, but Peyton keeps talking about a weapon.
A joker,
and all that kind of stuff. And Hampton's not really that. He catches the ball well.
Yeah.
But he's not Sproles or even like Kamara as a receiver.
Yeah. And I could see Peyton in particular wanting to recreate what he had,
I would think,
with Kamara.
But running back's a big need for them. I mean, now the cupboard's pretty big.
They also took, at one point, the Alabama running back, the grinder.
Ingram. You're talking about the Saints.
They took Mark Ingram.
In the first round.
In the first round.
Yeah.
That's kind of the Omari and Hampton back.
Yeah.
Except Hampton has more speed.
I say Hampton's a better receiver and even more of a big play guy. I mean, Ingram won Heisman, his first round pick.
But if you remember early on when they drafted Kamara, they still had Ingram.
Yeah.
And they went with that 1-2 punch.
For quite a bit. Yeah. So, no, there are some landing spots. I mean, I don't know that this is the case, but I happened to do a podcast this morning with Marcus Mosher. He was on our show one time. He does Locked On Cowboys. He's pretty convinced that their first-round pick is going to be Tet or Golden. I thought Hampton could be a landing spot there. Genty goes in the top 10. Obvious need at running back, but he thinks they would go receiver.
And that's why Denver could do the same thing. I just think that this year's wide receiver group isn't as talented or as deep as we've seen the last few years.
Maybe they take the other one of those.
Yeah, which is why the Steelers made the trade for DK Metcalf.
Right, it has not made a pick from.
Yeah,
right,
I think
100%.
that because you have to dance with what you got, and so.
And the second-round backs for Denver wouldn't be bad.
No,
like if
backs, they take Judkins, they'd be perfectly happy.
Johnson, there's plenty to pick from. Right.
So
I give Hampton a 40% chance of being there at 21.
Yeah.
But I would take the D lineman.
I still think the defensive line, for the same reasons. I think you can get a back at some point. You got Jaylen Warren in your backfield.
Yeah.
That he can touch the ball 250 times.
Since we're talking about an abundance of positions, on the way here, I was listening to Todd McShay, was on Ross Tucker's podcast, said he has 35 D-line, from edge to nose, everything in between, just defensive front players, 35 guys with a top 3 round grade. That's like 1 out of every 3 picks.
It's a lot, but I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's a really deep class, and they're going to go.
The edges in particular, I just see edge rushers all over this draft.
Me too.
And even like a lot of my mock drafts, when we get to that 6th or 7th round, and I'm like, okay, who's the best player available? It's an edge guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know that I necessarily need him.
But if you got 5th round grade on a guy,
but he'll play special teams, and maybe he's better. He pushes Jeremiah Moon off the roster or makes him the 5th guy. Herbig, you don't know what's going to happen there. Again, Watt's going into the final. You don't know. There's some uncertainty at that position for sure.
Right. Is Herbig going to sign a second contract?
Right.
I don't know. Right.
Somebody may make him an offer. He can't. I mean, he's a starting caliber player.
I'd have to really look at the teams though, but I definitely think, to your point, there's more need across the 31 teams at edge than D tackle.
Yeah, a lot of teams have one, but they don't have 2 or even 3.
Right. Which could really help the Steelers with the D tackle roar.
Because of the way that defensive tackles can hold on into their 30s, well into their 30s. There's more longevity. Yeah, you can go get a Devon Godshaw. And he can hold down a spot for you, and or pick somebody.
Especially with all the noses. It's funny, we turned in our triple takes D tackles.
All kinds of noses in this tackle.
And I guess you and I had like the same paragraph written almost.
I had written mine last week, and I hadn't seen yours until last night, and I'm putting it into the system, and I'm like,
did you just cut and paste my stuff?
That looks awfully familiar, and I go up and I read mine. I'm like, I'm kind of saying the same thing here. It's a lot of the same wording. I'm like, Matt, we've been spending way too much time together talking about the draft. But it's true.
Yeah, it is.
There are, I
listed like 7 noses I thought would be like the 3rd and 4th round.
There's probably 10 to 15 true nose tackles in this draft.
That'll get picked.
That are going to get picked that could all stick in the NFL. Like, they're not all going to work out.
No, but 12 of them you'd like to be Steelers. Yeah. That would be almost guaranteed a roster spot. It'd be helpful.
It's kind of,
and not everyone's after a nose,
right? And that's the when you look at a guy like Kenneth Grant,
can he be? I don't think he's nose only.
I don't think he is either.
But that split my tie between Nolan and Grant, and I could be convinced that Harmon is worth more than Grant.
Yeah,
what snaps? How many snaps can you play?
Right, that's the thing.
Right,
it goes back to what we were talking about. If you're going to talk about Graham, Mason Graham,
he's the opposite.
He's a talented player.
Yeah,
but what's his ceiling in this defense?
How many snaps a game?
Yeah,
and what are all his roles? Again, I think Grant, if you were in a true 3-4, I think Grant could be an end.
Yeah,
but is he going to be one of your 2 pass rushers in nickel and dime? Not for a while. I mean, Cam would have to retire.
He'd
have to really take steps forward.
5 a game.
Right.
But he's not going to be a primary guy.
He's not going to be a primary guy. He's definitely behind Benton. He's definitely behind Cam, where Nolan would be in the mix. Harmon would be in the mix today.
Right.
And that's a lot of snaps, where you're at a 4-man front.
Yeah, I get it. They only play that 3-4 defense is only about 25% of what you do. But that's why you better be able to do something else as opposed to just being a nose.
Yeah.
That's why if I'm taking just a guy who's a pure nose, unless it's just a value that I can't, I think Alfred Collins can rush the passer.
Right. I think Collins and Grant.
I think Tyleik Williams
there
has some pass rush potential.
Yeah. I mean,
but if they're a true nose, and you look at some of these guys and like 0 career sacks. Or,
And you mentioned, I forget what name you threw out there, but I was going to throw out like Linval Joseph. You can Godshaw.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get a plugger, pure run stuffer anvil in the middle of the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a hard thing to find.
Yeah. Those guys hang again. They can play till they're 40.
But I still like the idea of Nolan or Harmon or Grant, and then 4th round Caldwell.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, he could be like a 2nd-round player. I mean, West or Caldwell, but you're going to give him the 4th this year.
Right.
Jump on it.
Because of the way the draft falls. But it's 2 very interesting guys and a 3rd.
Yeah.
Interesting because he's a bigger back than what they've been bringing in. But again, I think
totally pigeonholed on this style.
Yeah, I think some of that goes into what's available in the draft. There are 4 or 5 bigger backs. But the majority of them are those 205 to 210 pound guys.
Yeah, and those guys the college game's more about space. Yeah. It's easier to get guys in space and that type of thing. And I sold Gordon short, and frankly, I've sold him short every step of the process. I haven't been real impressed.
He was really good 2 years ago.
That's what I was going to say, though. Like, if you look at the way too early mock drafts, it was him and Hampton and Judkins as number 2 behind Genty, depending who you liked. I mean, so he didn't have a great year. Was there injuries I don't know about? Or, I mean,
maybe the line wasn't as good.
Maybe that's why he's in. They're asking him all these questions.
Yeah.
Can we get the 2 year ago version in the 5th round? Well, now I'm interested. Right.
So, interesting, and we'll see how this whole thing plays out here in a couple of weeks. But he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson. And that music cues you in.
I feel a
to
disturbance
our
in
visitor.
the force.
There's a disturbance in the force as the Dean of Doom, the Lord of living in his spheres, and the Emperor of Steelers football coverage. Bob Labriola joins us here on the Justin Miller Hotline. How you doing, Labs?
Pretty good, guys. How you all?
Fantastic.
Too bad.
Fantastic.
Bob, we're now 2 weeks out from the draft. Are you starting to feel the buzz, or are you ready for this whole thing to be over?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I always do. I don't know that I have a feel for how it's going to go. Starting with who the Steelers are going to pick 21st, and then what's going to happen in the first 20 picks. I can't remember the last time there was a draft where there wasn't a, oh my God pick, close to the top of the first round. And, again, like I said, look forward to it. I want to see how it unfolds, hoping for the best. And, I just hope that, we don't set any records in terms of length, 4 hours and 30 minutes, those kind of things. Let me ask you guys, you think there's going to be a lot of trades in the first round?
I was just writing about that last night, Bob, for my 5 for Friday. Just a little
side note
there. Yeah. This is the latest that we've gone into, or the closest that we've gotten to a draft with all the teams still owning their own spots since 1993. And so I went back and looked at that 93 draft. Things changed 5 days before the draft because Joe Montana got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, and that was a first-round draft pick, so that messed up the order a little bit. But there were still 11 draft picks traded in the first round, including that Montana. So there was still some movement because, you could, as much as you want to talk about, best player available and all that stuff, teams still draft for need, and it's always the best player available at a position of need.
Oh, of course.
And so, if you see a run on a certain position and you have a guy that's rated that highly, maybe you move.
Yeah, and maybe teams are also waiting to make sure that the guy that they're targeting in their trade-up is there for them.
Yeah.
Before they make any deals. Because, you could think, I'm going to trade up to the third spot, to the Giants spot, and I'll get player X. But, that doesn't mean that he's not picked first, or somebody doesn't, even if you know what the Browns are going to do, somebody could jump into that spot. So, I think the teams are, in terms of maybe waiting to pull the trigger on some of these trades, teams are being purposeful, and they want who they want maybe before they make a trade, and they want to make sure he's there.
I think another aspect of it is the salary cap keeps going up, and the league is so profitable right now that the Titans aren't up against it and have to trade A.J. Brown, or the Chiefs aren't trading Tyreek Hill. There weren't a lot of big-time players to trade your first-round pick for because these teams have the money to pay them now.
Yeah, and the other, part of that is, the cap going up, is that we didn't see any big names cut on March, opening of the league year day. A lot of times you'll see.
Well, there's that Rodgers character. I don't know if you've heard about him.
Do you think that was? You think that move was salary cap or performance?
I think it's all the above.
Well, I don't think the Jets did that strictly to become cap compliant.
No. I just think they're doing things differently.
I was speaking specifically of those
big cap cut guys.
Cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have to see any of that this year, and you saw a lot of teams re-sign their own, in the hours before free agency began.
A lot of money floating around out there.
Which is why, to me, Bob, and this wasn't a great free agent crop. It just wasn't.
I think they're going to get worse and worse because teams can keep them, right?
But that's why I think and we'll see if you agree with me on this one, maybe the most significant move that was made of a guy changing teams and a weapon, a skill position player, was the Steelers acquiring DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to be honest. That was a big move. Certainly, marquee kind of. It was a trade. And then the big contract came right on the heels of that. But I have to be honest. I'm not well versed enough in what was going on league wide to certainly, say unequivocally that was the, top of the charts move of this free agency. But certainly, it was a significant one. A historic one in terms of the Steelers franchise, in that the amount of money that closely followed the trade, to get DK Metcalf extended. But maybe I just think that with the cap going up continuously, teams are also able, you can franchise guys without a lot of pain, because when you franchise tag a guy, if he would show up the 15 minutes after you and the franchise tag is applied and sign that, that's guaranteed money, and it goes right on your cap.
You're on the hook,
right
yeah.
Then.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the T. Higgins thing is an example. I don't think the Bengals had much financial fear, let me say this, salary cap financial fear in making that move and tagging him, and then it bought him some time, and then they worked out the long-term deals with him and Jamar Chase to keep Joe Burrow happy, which I think is a smart move by the Bengals, because to me he is, I've told you guys this before, I without doubt, he's, in my opinion, he's the best quarterback in the AFC North, and if I had my pick of anyone in the AFC, I'd take him. Now, I'm not saying that to run down Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying my personal likes. I like the way he plays. I like the way he leads. And
you take him over the guy in Kansas City?
Me personally, yes. I'm not a big, Jake from State Farm, he whines too much for me. He just does. And I'm not saying he's not a great player, because he is. And I just like Burrow. If it was my team, I owned the franchise, or I was the head coach, or whatever, I just like the way he plays and he leads. He seems to be a fairly low maintenance superstar at that position too, which is not necessarily the norm anymore either.
So, Labs, the Steelers had Omarion Hampton in today for a visit. Widely regarded first-round pick, probably running back, North Carolina, in what looks like a really, really stacked running back class. How much are you prioritizing that position for the Steelers Thursday, Friday, Saturday draft?
Well, I think they need to get one for sure.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know that, here's the thing. If you're going to pick a running back in the first round, I don't think you open the season with Jaylen Warren as the starter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that's what you would want to do. If you are content to open the season with Jaylen Warren as the starter, I think you can get yourself a running back later than the 21st overall pick, and do yourself very well at that position. So, that's the thing. I mean, the Steelers tendered him as a restricted free agent with a second-round number, meaning if he would present an offer sheet and the Steelers decided not to match, they would get a second-round pick. And I think that more significant than that way of looking at it is, I don't think there's any teams that are going to go out there and think, I'm willing to give up a second-round pick for Jaylen Warren.
Right.
Not in this, like Matt, you were just talking about the depth and the talent at that position in this upcoming draft. So
yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think you've seen from the Steelers' standpoint, you've seen things from Jaylen Warren in terms of his ability to run the ball. He's a good enough receiver, a very willing and effective blocker, and so again, I don't. That's the reason I don't pick up running back number one, because I think that I like him as a player, and I'm not going to relegate him to backup status by picking a running back number one. Not now, anyway.
Yeah, I hear you with that. The thing that gets me is a lot of people, because he wasn't as big as Najee Harris, look at Jaylen Warren. Well, he's a little back. He's 215, 220 pounds. He's not a small running back by any standard. He's short, but he's not small.
He doesn't go down easily.
Right, and I don't know that it's necessary. Okay, Najee Harris was bigger, and I'm just playing along this train of thought. That doesn't mean that you have to pack everybody in, tight in short yardage situations either.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times guys are most effective in short yardage when you spread the defense out and let him pick his spot, give him the ball, and let him run the daylight, so to speak, or whatever. I don't know what the size factor, how that's important necessarily, with the exception of this, durability. And I don't think that there's any evidence that Jaylen Warren is a China doll. He's not a guy who's often injured. And as I said, he's not afraid to step up and stick his face in the chest of a blitzing linebacker if that's necessary, which I admire. So, I don't know what the size factor has to do with it. If you're asking me, if you're going to look for a running back based on a specific skill, speed, I'd go for that. You want to add a fast breakaway, big play kind of guy with speed, that to me is something I'd be willing to entertain. I'm still not saying I'm doing that first round,
right.
But in terms of a specific skill that you don't have at that position, speed. Now, I don't know who that is.
Well, there's lots of guys in this draft. This was the fastest running back group in combine history this year. Their average 40 time was 4.47.
Several of them have been in town.
Yeah, these guys can all fly. I mean, the outliers are the 4.6 guys. And
that's nice, but playing speed and track speed are sometimes two different things. So
I hear you.
But I'm talking about, if you want to add something that you don't have, to me it would be someone who can be a big play running back based on using his speed, hit a seam, Willie Parker-ish kind of guy. So that's the way I look at that position.
So, Labs, I assume you're in the loop about Pat McAfee's got a show tonight. Do we think we got any news brewing on a quarterback tonight? Big news coming?
Not a McAfee fan. I mean, God bless him for turning,
an illustrious punting career.
Is a run-of-the-mill talk show into a multi-million-dollar enterprise.
I mean, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, right. If you guys were making that kind of cash, you would be wasting your time talking to me. And he's a punter, for goodness sakes. I mean, is there a more nondescript, member of a 53-man roster?
Yes, the long snapper.
Yeah, okay. But at least, okay, I'll give you that. But anyway, that was always my theory about why Bill Cowher hated punters.
Yeah, they should never be seen or heard. Because if you see him, you're giving the ball up, and if you hear anything from him, I don't want to hear anything from the punter.
Right. Inherently, when you have to use the punter, it signals some sort of failure.
Yes.
Because like you said, you're giving the ball up, and I would imagine that honks off, a head coach, just, as a matter of course. And as you just mentioned, if you have to hear from him, or he shanks it, or, kicks it through the end zone, or, does something that you would rather he didn't do in that particular circumstance, then yeah, I think that would just kind of fan the flames of discontent, so to speak.
Bob, one last thing for you. We've been talking a lot this week about arm length and things of that nature as it pertains to particularly the defensive linemen, because that's what we're kind of centered in on here in recent weeks. And we did our top 21 players for the Steelers because they have 21. They're picking at 21. And so we had our 21 players that we would take at 21 if we were drafting for the Steelers. And we didn't include Mason Graham from Michigan, who is pretty much the consensus number one defensive tackle in this draft, because he has 32-inch arms. And he's not a nose tackle, and he's probably he doesn't have the length to play defensive end in the Steelers 3-4 defense. And we've gotten a lot of pushback on that. But I'm sticking to my guns on this. You got to be big enough to ride the ride if you're going to be a 3-4 defensive end in this defense. I'm not saying you have to look like Stephon Tuitt, but it sure as hell doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you do.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I will be honest, though, I don't know nearly enough about, defensive line technique and the way what the Steelers require in terms of technique from their defensive linemen to make any judgment on arm length. I'm not trying to duck the question. Mm-hmm. I'm going to plead ignorance because I don't know what that means. What I have said, though, I believe that you cannot have a defensive lineman who is one-dimensional anymore, because if he can't stop the run when he's on the field, that's what the offense will do. If he can't rush the passer when he's on the field, that's what the offense is going to do. And there are no more rules about when you run the ball, what areas of the field you run the ball, what downs you run the ball. That doesn't exist anymore. Teams are not afraid to start 1st and 10 at their own 1-yard line. They'll come out and spread you out and throw the ball all over the field. Whereas, when Casey Hampton was a player, you pretty much could depend on something off tackle. So, as I said, that those rules are gone. Teams, offenses have no shame, no conscience about doing things outside the old traditional, mindset. And so I just think that if you're looking for top of the depth chart defensive linemen now, they have to be able to do both, because you cannot be running them on and off the field in situations. Because even if you could do that, even if the offense will allow you to do that by not using pace, they're not going to cooperate with their play calls.
Yeah, absolutely. The Aaron Rodgers of the world will make sure that guy stays on the field.
Oh yeah,
that's what they do.
Or you just don't.
Or never gets on.
Right, never gets on. Exactly.
Bob, we will let you go, get back to your beautiful day of stewing and doing whatever it is you do on a beautiful day outside. You should probably get outside and not shovel snow.
Cut the grass.
Now you got to cut the grass. There you go.
Yeah, that's coming soon.
I can't believe you don't make Mary Ann do any of this stuff.
No, there's services for that kind of stuff.
Okay, there you go. There you go. That makes more sense. Our guest has been Bob Labriola, editor of Steelers Digest and Steelers.com, the Dean of Doom, the Lord of Living in His Fears, the Emperor of Steelers coverage. I'm Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on Steelers Audio Network. We will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, well, again, a beautiful Wednesday here in Pittsburgh. We just had a visit from the Emperor. And can I call him the Emperor? Because that was Chuck Knowles.
Yeah, I think you're infringing there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Myron came up with that.
All hail the
Emperor. It's
Emperor.
the Emperor,
Chaz.
though.
Right,
if you're going to talk about, Bob, and Bob's not Vader. Bob's the Emperor with the hood on. And,
right.
The lightning shooting out of his fingers.
No question. You get the draft, though, right around the corner.
Pulling the strings.
He's the one, the brains behind the operation. Yeah,
that's what Bob is. Yeah. Matt, Jalen Milroe and Tyler Shuck visited the Browns yesterday.
Did they? Makes sense.
And it's looking more and more like Travis Hunter's going to go number 2.
Okay.
And I think it's because of the foot issue
with Carter. I just think when you watch Hunter, he just blows me away as a prospect on both sides of the ball. I mean, I think he's clearly the best receiver, clearly the best corner. I mean, I don't know
if he's the best receiver. It's not a great receiver class.
No, it's not.
But I mean, he does a lot of good things as a receiver, and I get it. But if he were a receiver in last year's draft,
receiver only, I don't think he goes ahead of the top two guys. Maybe a Dunze. I don't know.
I don't know if he goes ahead of a Dunze.
He's got so much ability. He's just not a very developed route runner.
The route running, I don't know how fast he is because he's one of these guys that didn't run.
I'm not the slightest bit worried about that.
I think he can run.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the Shedeur Sanders stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several instances where he's just back there and I'm just going to throw it up for Travis and let him make an adjustment and go.
He bails that offense out a lot.
Yeah. So I get it. I think he's a very good player.
Yeah.
But again, to me, it speaks to this overall draft that.
Do you think the Browns, where they're sitting, are definitely going to draft one? I mean, if it's Pickett, Cousins, if they have Cousins on the back burner, does Shuck or Milroe make a lot of sense for them in round 2? Maybe not even the top of round 2, but I think they have. I know they have plenty of other picks too.
I think they would have to get. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about what they want to do in terms of do they think Pickett can be a long-term answer?
I bet not.
I bet not too.
Right. But I'm sure they're happy to give it a shot.
Yeah, they're happy to have him because they really don't have anybody right now.
Yeah.
Would
they only go to Cousins if they don't draft one?
The question with Cousins, if you make a deal for him, how much of the contract are you going to have to pick up?
Yeah.
If you get shut out, you don't have another quarterback on your roster. If it's just Pickett.
Yeah.
Well, now the Falcons are going to see that.
Sure.
And they're going to say, well, you got to pick it all. You got to take it all.
Atlanta picked up that bonus on Cousins. I still think he might get cut. That's why they've been linked, is the Wilson deal.
I think they've already told him you're not coming to any OTAs.
He said he's going to waive his trade
no trade clause.
No trade clause after the first round. He doesn't want to go to another team that just took one in the first round.
I get that.
He is that.
He just had that happen to him.
I say that he just went through that.
Yeah.
I just signed a huge deal with Atlanta, and he took one in the first round. I don't.
So if you're the Browns, and you've got that pick at the top of round 2, is that a consideration? You trading that pick for Cousins?
I think it's much more likely that you take that pick and you go try to get Dart or Sanders.
That's the thing.
Yeah. As opposed to taking Shuck or Milroe. Shuck and Milroe make a lot more sense for the Steelers to me than the Browns.
Yeah, you want the developmental guy as opposed to. If the Browns do go that route,
yeah,
that means Kenny Pickett's going to be their starter.
If they were to go Shuck or Milroe,
yeah. Unless one of those guys goes,
I wouldn't be comfortable starting Dart week 1.
It would have to also almost be a Russell Wilson situation with the Seahawks, where he just comes in and blows you away. You say, okay, we're going to start the kid.
Yeah. Right.
As opposed to Pickett.
Right. It's a little sticky right now. I would take Hunter too at number 2. Just I think he's a rare dude. I would not take Sanders. I don't think they're close in terms of just.
He's not the second overall pick in the draft.
No. There's a lot of players in between them in this draft.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about him tomorrow, assuming his announced visit with the Steelers actually takes place.
He's supposed to come tomorrow.
He's supposed to come tomorrow to the Steelers.
Okay.
So we'll talk more about that then. But it's when the other teams in the division are talking quarterback here, it becomes noteworthy.
No question about it. No question about it. And I do think there's a lot of pressure from ownership to find the next quarterback in Cleveland.
Well, the pressure from ownership was to go get Deshaun Watson, and how did that work out?
Right. And that's been part of their problem every step of the way is all these dudes.
That, to me, is kind of why Cousins to them doesn't make a lot of sense. You're already on the hook for a whole bunch of money at the quarterback position.
Right.
You need to get cheaper there.
The beauty of it is why they were linked together originally was if Cousins gets cut, well, then you're not on the hook at all. You get the Wilson
and he's
deal.
worked with Stefanski and all that stuff.
That all adds
But if
up.
you got to take on 80% of the contract.
I mean, if it's $20 million, it's
too much.
More than they got.
You're going to be spending $100 million on your quarterback room.
Right.
For mid-level quarterback play.
What's the ideal situation if you're them? Take Hunter, trade the 20 and take Sanders, and don't get involved with Cousins.
Yeah.
Pickett and Sanders.
Or
like that. Or Dart.
Maybe you like Dart better and you trade up to 25 and go get Dart.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I would bet that's their ideal situation.
Or you stay where you're at, and if those guys are gone and you got to take Shuck, okay.
And just ignore Cousins altogether.
Yeah.
And just Pickett and Shuck, Pickett and Milroe, something like that.
I don't think that's ideal.
I don't think that's ideal for this year.
It's not helping you win.
Sure.
If you're Stefanski, you're like, I might get fired at the end of the year.
Yeah. If you just had this long conversation with Myles Garrett about how, we're in it.
We got a plan.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We're going to win this year. We'll be competitive. Cousins is really the only guy that accomplishes that.
Yeah.
At best.
You can be competitive with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
The Steelers showed that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to play a certain way.
The D would have to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Which maybe I would even consider Carter. Well, I wouldn't. I like Hunter better, but the D can be really good with Carter, but it sounds like Hunter's standing out.
For them, for what they have on defense, Carter would make more sense than Hunter.
Agreed. I mean, their corner position's pretty strong. Right.
And they've got money tied up in it.
Yeah. Now, Newsom's up after the year. Would he go for a fourth-round pick somewhere?
Well, what are you going to do, move Hunter into the slot? You still don't have a slot.
You still don't have a slot. That's been an issue for them for a while. Yeah, I mean, the guys at the top of the draft aren't perfect for their needs for being the number 2 pick.
If you take Hunter, you're going to make him. You're going to say, okay, your primary position is wide receiver, and you're going to do some cornerback stuff because we're set at cornerback. You may be better eventually than some of these guys, and maybe you're better right now. But we're going to have to trade one of these guys.
No, that's what I was going to say too. Is I would assume they'll ask Hunter to be receiver first.
Yeah. Kind of like New England.
New England would definitely would.
Yeah.
I mean, because their receivers are so bad. At least they have Judy, and still their receivers aren't great.
But he's still insistent that he wants to be both right now.
He wants to be both.
He wants Roger Goodell when he's drafted to announce him as a wide receiver cornerback.
Yeah.
There's some ego going on there.
Yeah, but he's earned it.
I get it. He's a good player, but.
Yeah. I get no problem with asking for that.
It also makes me wonder what he's going to want paid in a few years.
Well, that's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if he hits, is he going to make Mahomes money?
And it's just
maybe.
Nobody has done that.
No,
guys have dabbled in this, dabbled in that, but they've never been full-time
or
both.
even 2/3. Right? Yeah. No, I know. I can't wait to see how it plays out. I'm so intrigued with him.
And you maybe you do it as a 21-year-old. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it as a 25-year-old, a 26-year-old, a 27-year-old. And the other problem that arises is how do I build my roster with that? Because if he gets hurt, I'm losing 2 positions.
Yeah. Right. I mean you get very dependent on it. That's why he's so valuable, but
there's a reason why the NFL doesn't ask guys to play 2 ways anymore.
Sure. And a lot of it's even just the meeting room stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just knowing everything you need to know.
But rosters expanded. Guys started specializing because you don't, we haven't had a true two-way player in almost 50 years.
Right. And
over 50 years.
I'm real intrigued how it works out. I mean, again, what if you just tweak an ankle? Do you have to that week are you only going to be one side or the other?
Or if you tweak the ankle and you're out for both positions, now what?
Yeah.
I'm losing 2 starters with one guy.
With one guy. And I have reasonable backups at both spots. I don't know. Again, I can't wait to see how it works. I think he could really be a special player. But the other thing, I think Dion came out and said this too. He's like, it's harder to do it at college because there's more snaps played and there's a lot more hurry up. There's long commercial breaks.
I think it's easier because you're not asked to do as much coverage-wise. The routes aren't as...
mentally it's not the same.
Yeah, you're not running as many routes.
You're not tackling Derrick Henry either.
Yeah, there's that.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I think Dion flat out told him, if you don't get super involved in the run game, so be it. Which is smart for Colorado.
That's what Dion was.
Right. But that's not going to fly at the NFL level.
No, teams will just run
They're going
at
to
you.
run at them, right?
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get to a break. Yeah. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, kicking off hour number 2 here on Wednesday, it is time for a little mock draft.
Mock it up. All right.
Let's mock it up here. We're going to use the ProFootballNetwork.com simulator today. And the first 20 picks are in. We are up at 21. We have 3 trade offers.
Okay.
The Rams are offering pick 26 and next year's 2 to come up to 21. They also want pick 229.
Okay.
Because they don't have a second.
I'm saying them not having a second makes it tough. But
the Jets are offering 42, 73, 110 and next year's second for 21 and 156.
42 is the first one, though, huh?
Yeah. That's their second round.
Okay.
Next year's 2 could be quite valuable.
That could be very, very valuable.
And, well, the Chargers are offering 22 and 86 to come up 1 spot.
I always think that's like stealing.
It is kind of stealing, and
right.
But they offered it. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously, there's somebody there that they want to take that they think we might take.
I'm cool with that, but I'm not cool with then trade down again.
Yeah.
Like I can see that deal. If there's somebody that they absolutely don't want to get jumped because they love them, and it's worth 3rd-round pick to them, I don't think that's crazy.
Let's go ahead and look and see who they might want to come up and get.
Like, is Loveland there or
Derek Harmon? Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, Tyler Booker, Jihad Campbell, Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State, Walter Nolan, Nick Scourton, Gray Zabel, Kenneth Grant is also there. They may think maybe they think we're going to take Grant and they want Grant, or
I'd rather talk. I mean, I'm cool taking that Chargers deal because any of those 3 are fine. I would rather talk to the Rams, I think. At 26.
Okay.
I know they don't have a 2. Are we able to counter on this one?
We can counter, yeah.
Okay.
Their next pick is at 90.
Can we get
So you would rather
26, 90, and next year's 3rd, not next year's 2nd?
We can try.
I would prefer to do that.
I'll propose
one of those D tackles will be there in 5 picks.
They accepted it.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. We're going to just reject.
I'd be shocked if they're trading up for a D tackle.
So the Chargers wanted Jahdae Barron, which, I could say they might think we would take him.
Yeah. And I could see the Rams wanting to. Did they take Barron?
They came up to get Jihad Campbell.
Okay.
Which that would make some sense.
So they took Barron and gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then James Pierce went, Walter Nolan went, Derek Harmon went.
Okay. Doesn't love that. That's almost worst case scenario, but I still think Grant is fine.
Kenneth Grant, Omarion Hampton also there.
Okay.
So you get your pick of Omarion Hampton or Kenneth Grant. Okay.
I mean, you knew that it was trading down wasn't going to hurt you.
Yeah. But all 3 of those guys were there, so we were
pretty comfortable. Yeah. Right. And Hampton.
So we're taking Grant.
Agreed.
Okay. Kenneth Grant is the pick.
You got a little future pick there involved, too.
We got a future pick. We got an extra pick in this draft.
Mm-hmm. But now we got to wait a bit.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get an extra pick in this draft, but we moved big time.
Well, we got an extra. We got a 3rd.
We gave up 229, though.
Oh, okay.
We just moved up.
Gotcha.
Okay. We are now up at pick 83. And the top players available. Alfred Collins.
It's a tough one with Grant. It'd have been easier with Nolan or Harmon, but boy, that's some beef to put in that room.
Jack Becht.
Okay.
Wide receiver from TCU. Ozzie Trapillo, offensive tackle from Boston College. Denzel Burke, the cornerback from Ohio State. Barrett Carter, linebacker from Clemson. Chris Paul. Is there a position you want to hit here rather than just reading off names?
Quarterback.
The quarterbacks available. Tyler Shuck, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Riley Leonard, Cal McCord.
Okay. I was hoping for Milroe, but I would consider Shuck.
Running back, you're looking at Scatabo, Bashel Tootin,
yeah.
Damian Martinez, Ollie Gordon, Dylan Sampson, R.J. Harvey, Devin Neal.
I don't really like what's there overall.
Wide receiver, you're looking at Tez Johnson, Torrey Horton from Colorado State, Xavier Restrepo, Savion Williams, Ty Felton, Dante Thornton, I don't love it.
I don't like. I mean, a lot of our favorite players must have gone off the board.
Let's look at the defensive linemen
Now,
here.
say, how about other defensive tackles other than Collins?
Alfred Collins there.
Yeah.
Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. Deone Walker from Kentucky. Josh Farmer from Florida State.
I think I'd go Collins. It's very redundant, but they're big, massive, tone-setter, talented dudes. It's not our usual build, to say the least. Don't we have another pick here real soon, too?
We do, yeah.
If there's somebody like, certainly I could be convinced, because I could also take Farmer or Collins.
The cornerbacks, you're looking at Burke, Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech, Zay Alexander, Kobe Bryant from Kansas, Jordan Hancock from Ohio State, Quincy Riley from Louisville.
Man, I'm not. I don't have third round on any of these guys.
I think maybe just take Shock.
I'd be fine with that too, because I think you'll get Farmer or Collins in a couple picks here.
Good chance.
Yeah, right.
We may not get Shock though.
I would be shocked. Yeah, I mean, even if he's a long term too, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It might be intriguing. Yeah, I like it.
All right, Tyler Shock it is.
Okay.
Now we're up again at 90, and looking at those defensive tackles now. Well, Shamar Turner is now the top guy because Collins went to the Raiders.
Is Farmer still there, though?
Farmer is still there, though. C.J. West is there.
Is there an offensive
Ty
tackle
Robinson
that
is still
shouldn't
there.
be there?
Johnny Cornelius from Oregon, Anthony Belton from NC State, Holland Pierce from Rutgers, Logan Brown from Kansas, Chase Lunt from UConn, Charles Grant from William & Mary.
Grant's my favorite, but I think I'd go Farmer.
Running back, you're looking at Bashal Tootin, Damian Martinez, Ollie Gordon, Dylan Sampson, R.J. Harvey.
That might be next round.
Okay, we don't pick again until 123, so.
I think that's early for those backs. Not loving the build so far.
No, well, I get it.
Sometimes it goes that way.
Pure guards. Dylan Fairchild from Georgia, Jackson Slater from Sac State, Garrett Dellinger from LSU, Luke Kandra from Cincinnati, Miles Frazier from LSU.
I think they're more later guys, too.
Yeah.
I think Farmer's the best player out there. I didn't love the receivers. Didn't love the corners.
Let me look at the edge guys, because some of these edges are also.
Sometimes they overlap.
We got Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Birch from Oregon. He's big enough to ride.
He's big. I just don't feel real comfortable bumping him in.
Tyler Barron from Miami. No. David Walker from Central Arkansas. Antoine Powell-Ryland from Virginia Tech. No. Fidel Diggs from Syracuse. That's a no. Savion Jones from LSU.
Jones is the other one that's like Birch size.
Yeah.
It's a projection, but there is talent there.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the length.
I mean, I can't imagine taking him over Farmer, though. I know they're real different, but one guy I know what he is, the other one I got to project.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Farmer.
I don't like what came off the board was a lot of our favorite dudes. That's the way sometimes
different rankings here.
Yeah.
Well, different rankings. Okay. We're up at 123. And top players available. Deone Walker. I'm not shocked.
No.
Savion Williams.
That's not bad.
Samael Mondon Jr. from the linebacker from Georgia. Ty Felton, the wide receiver from Maryland. Aronde Gadsden, tight end from Syracuse. Damian Martinez, the top back now available.
I wouldn't have any
Pull
problem
the trigger
with that.
here?
Yeah.
Damian Martinez it is.
Okay. He may have been my favorite one that you listed last time.
All right, we're up at 156. The best player available is R.J. Harvey from UCF.
I like Harvey a lot, too.
Yeah.
Harvey and Martinez would be really close in my rankings.
Then it's J.J. Pegues, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss.
We're good there.
Phil there. Devin Neal, Riley Leonard, Luke Kandra, the guard from Cincinnati, Seth McLaughlin, Elijah Roberts there. He was just in for a visit yesterday, the defensive tackle from SMU, Jalen Rivers, the offensive tackle from Miami, Sebastian Castro, the safety from Iowa.
Rivers might be your starting guard next year.
It could be.
With some tackle capabilities. I wouldn't hate that. He reminds me a lot of Jones from LSU, where tackle, but probably guard, but not 100% only guard.
Yeah.
You know?
Zaw Frazier's still there.
Interesting.
The UTSA. And Cam Jackson was still there. So, I mean, there's so many nose tackles in this draft. It's just crazy.
It is.
Tim Smith's still there. Jordan James was still there, the running back. What are you feeling here?
Probably Rivers. I think you said Williams, a receiver, still there.
I did.
Or was that a round ago?
That was around. I don't think we even got that. Yeah, he's gone. He's long gone. He's risen up some of these boards. People finally caught on to.
I'd like to get.
He's actually good.
Soon. Yeah. Unless there was a receiver or corner that just blew your doors off.
Yeah, Rivers stands out among the offensive linemen still available.
Yeah.
And you're right. He might be a guard next year, but that's fine.
That's kind of fine. It's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah. All right. Jalen Rivers, offensive lineman from Miami, is the pick. We got one left here. This is 185, our final pick. Kyle McCord's still there.
And we took Shuck.
Simeon Barrow, defensive tackle from Miami. Jake Majors, a center from Texas. Nick Nash, wide receiver, San Jose State. Aeneas Peebles, undersized defensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. Keaton Crawford, safety out of Nevada. Mitchell Evans, the tight end from Notre Dame. Jay Higgins, linebacker from Iowa. Cam Jackson.
We don't need him, but Crawford's a heck of a tester and an athlete and project.
Jabbar Muhammad is there, the cornerback out of Oregon. He
could use a corner.
He'd be a slot, but
yeah, that's not all bad.
Little slot. Oh man, Jalen Smith, the cornerback out of USC, is there. I like him.
Yeah, I'd say that might be my favorite corner you mentioned or D-back you mentioned. Do it.
Yeah, I think Jalen Smith it is.
Yeah, one more in the equation would make sense.
Yeah,
and
he could play inside. He could play outside.
He can do both, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Some versatility.
Let's see how we came out of here. All right, so we traded back to 26. We get the Rams' third-round draft pick for next year.
Let's not forget that, right?
We got Kenneth Grant at 26. We took Tyler Shuck at 83.
Mm-hmm.
You're not saying that's cheating anymore.
I still think it is. I don't think there's any chance he gets to the 80s. I think he's going to go in round 2.
We took Josh Farmer at 90. That was one of the extra picks that we picked up. Damian Martinez at 123. Jalen Rivers, the offensive tackle out of Miami at 156.
They could run together, too.
There you go. And Jalen Smith, the cornerback out of USC at 185.
I don't mind the haul we ended up with, but I hated our options every time we were up just about.
It was tough.
Yeah. I mean, even the first-round pick, it's like Nolan and Harmon went.
It kind of narrowed our road got narrowed real quick.
I mean, again, I don't
we
mind
have many
the haul.
options.
Yeah, we didn't have many options at all. It's all of a sudden it was like, well, I better take them. It would get a lot of value, or boy, there's 10 guys to pick from here.
Yeah, we came out of this with 6 picks. We started with 6 picks. We came out of it with 6 picks, but we picked up that third-round pick next year.
Let's not forget that.
If we had 3 third-round picks next year, or even 4.
Right, it's a possibility.
If Fields plays his way into a third-round compensatory pick, wow.
First, a second, and multiple thirds.
Now I would if I had to trade my first and second this year, or next year, if I had to trade my 1 and 2, and even 2 of those 3s to go get a quarterback, I don't even know if you have to touch next year's 1 necessarily.
You might not, because you have so much firepower, right? Yeah, and I don't know what the case will be, but you might trade one of those thirds between now and the opening day. I mean, someone's out. I mean, probably not.
Probably not. It would have to be somebody who's really young on it.
It would have to be like you get shut out on Rodgers and you go get Carr or something like that. Or I don't even think he'd cost you that.
Wouldn't cost you that. Yeah.
No. I mean, but you at least have that option. If there's someone that's unhappy, that's expensive, you could be one of the teams in it.
More stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how much fun would it be to do a mock with 4 thirds?
And it's obvious that's the plan for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Like people saying that they don't have a plan. I'm going to say this again. The people saying the Steelers don't have a plan haven't been paying attention to what they've done with next year's draft. And they're not doing that simply because the draft is in Pittsburgh. They're doing that because the plan is to have all these picks available next year to go get your guy.
Yeah. I mean, it adds up much better. And there's so much cap space that they could fill other needs before the draft next year. No, I think that the perception of the team and their buying power a year from now will be a lot more clear.
Yeah.
You know?
So, well, that was our latest mock draft. I didn't like that one as much as I like last Friday's.
I remember that one going, whoa, that just fell right into place.
Yeah. And that's the way it goes sometimes. But that's why you do these things, to see what happens when you do it this way.
I mean, I would still make the trade with the Rams, knowing these are the players on the board. This is the deal in place. Maybe Nolan gets there half the time, or Harmon, or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind taking Grant.
No, not at all.
No, right.
Not at all. That's why you build that 21. He was on our 21.
Pretty high.
Yeah, really high.
Real high.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, you're part of the Draft Digest crew that puts that publication
like
together.
10 years now, something like that.
And that just came out this week.
Behind the scenes. You won't find my name in there anywhere.
The only name I see in there is Ross Tucker. It's the only one who gets any kind of credit.
He's the one that set us up with the gig way back when. Hey, you interested in doing this? Sure. And he writes.
You'll get no credit.
You'll get no credit.
But you'll get a paycheck.
But a paycheck showed up, and several copies of the publication showed up the other day.
So I was paging through it today as we were waiting to do the show, and they have some lists here. People love lists.
Oh, yeah.
But these ones are kind of germane to the conversation as we get closer to the draft.
I didn't write any lists, so these aren't me.
They haven't broken down to here. We'll do the first one here. 10 prospects who are underrated by the media.
Okay.
Now that's the thing when you start looking at.
Now to pull back the curtain, I assume whoever did these lists turned these in whenever I turned my team needs in too, and that was several weeks ago. The world's changing.
The world has changed, but not to the degree that some of these guys aren't still underrated by the draft prognosticators, the Mel Kuypers, and we do all the mock stuff, and we talk about players we feel are underrated.
Oh yeah. Everyone has their list, right?
Happens all the time. So here's their list: Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Clemson.
I can see that. Does a lot, and
just not real big, but he's
right.
I mean, he's rated down around the hundreds, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. But he has the type of game that should stick in the league. I mean, I don't think these people are saying he's going to be Troy Polamalu.
No. Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback out of Notre Dame.
I 100% agree. I think would be absolutely firmly in my top 5 if it's not for the hip.
He just hadn't done anything, and he's got the hip issue.
Right. I mean,
the medicals are going to be huge for him.
His stuff from 2 years ago is quite good.
I can remember watching Notre Dame 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was looking at their one cornerback because he was draft eligible, and I'm watching him, and
he was another tall, long dude. Yeah,
Michael Birch, who's the Steelers' assistant PR director, used to be the working PR at Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
And I'm watching this, and I'm going, "Who's that dude?
Who's the other guy?"
Yeah, and I asked Michael about, he's like, he'll be eligible next year. I'm like,
that
guy's good.
You'll know him then. He did a number on Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah. I mean, I do think he's underrated. I don't know anything about medicine, but I guess hips aren't as bad as they used to be. But this is his second one.
Yeah,
it's the other side. One of them was high school.
It's a labrum tear in the hip.
Which I don't know what that means.
I know what a labrum tear in the shoulder feels like. I had one. I had surgery on it. That was not fun.
How many labrums are in the body? I think there's one in the knee, too. I didn't know there was in there.
Yeah, joints. It's a joint thing.
Okay. I would immediately thought, though, all the hip turn the corners do, that's a terrible injury. And if he had one before, is this a recurring thing? But I don't. I mean, don't take my word on that.
That's what caused Tony Baselli to retire. Mm-hmm. He had a labrum surgery that they screwed up.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the extension on his arm that he used to, and he couldn't play anymore.
And that was the end of it. No, but I agree with Morrison being underrated.
Well, he's a good player. If he's clean,
he's
a
number one corner.
Kyle Williams, a wide receiver out of Washington State.
Yeah.
I think he's been painfully underrated the entire process.
Some people seem to realize that he's probably going on day 2, and I think he will.
Yeah, he's got size. He's got speed.
Yeah, he's a good route runner. Yeah. He's a good player.
Quarterback Max Brosmer from Minnesota.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, everyone just kind of throws him in as a maybe draftable seventh-round pick. I think he has a game that could stick in the league.
Offensive lineman Tate Ratledge from Georgia. I don't have him underrated. I had him in my top 5 as a guard.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good player.
I think he was number 5 for me, too.
Yeah.
I like both of the Georgia guards.
Yeah, they're both good players. And I get it. Maybe they're being looked at as late third, fourth round guys, and maybe they're going to be third round guys, or even in at the end of the second round. They're going to be starting guards in the league.
This happens at Bama. This happens at Georgia. Like, Georgia's going to have 4 offensive linemen drafted. Just none of them are easy slam dunk first round picks.
Yeah.
They
all can play.
They all can play. Yeah. The level of competition's strong. They're all athletes. They're all specimens.
They're all high.
They're not hyped up like Broderick Jones or Mims. They don't look like freaks of nature, but they're good.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Kyle McGonigal.
Oh, we brought him up in a similar manner. Yeah. Again, could he have a Pacheco-like career? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he could be a low-end one if he gets the opportunity or somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, fill-in starter,
and gets a bunch of yards late in the year or whatever.
Guy.
Right. He runs hard.
Defensive back Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech.
Okay, I agree. He's got traits
height, weight,
too.
speed.
Yeah.
Trait guy. Charles Grant from William & Mary, the offensive lineman.
I 100% agree.
We've talked about him a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people have said, like, Matt, you got to quit drafting this guy. I mean, I'm like,
he's always available. Like, it's the same thing with like Ty Robinson. We get to these late rounds, it's like Ty Robinson was available again in the late rounds.
Yeah.
When we made it, but we'd already taken the 2 defensive linemen. I'm like, I'm not even going to mention him here.
I mean, Grant's such a good athlete. You think they'll know some things about William & Mary? I mean, in general, and I put some credence in this, but just yesterday, Pro Football Focus put their O-line superlatives. They listed these are the best protectors, these are the best inside zone blockers, best outside zone blockers. He was number 1 on outside zone.
It's kind of a big deal.
He's blocking William & Mary opponents, and I'd love to see him at the Senior Bowl, but that's why he's not going around 1 or 2.
Right.
I mean, that's why it's even in the conversation.
Wide receiver Kanata Mumfield from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. You would think I'd know more about him being a Pitt guy, but I've heard that name more and more the last month.
Good in space, good change of direction.
He must have done well at their pro day.
His pro day was really good.
Okay, yeah. I didn't see the numbers, but just because all of a sudden his name keeps popping up, and I know the pro day has happened.
And then linebacker Kobe King from Penn State.
Another guy I don't know enough about. Penn State's got some interesting dudes, though. I like both their safeties. King's a name that's going to get drafted for sure.
Yeah.
And,
10 prospects who are overrated by the media. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss.
I don't agree.
I don't agree with that either.
No.
Prince Yu from Ole Miss.
I can see that. He's kind of a hired mercenary, pass rush only guy.
Yeah. Jackson Dart from Ole Miss.
Boy, what's with the Ole Miss stuff?
I'm seeing a trend here.
Yeah. Pegues, Ole Miss. But the corner, Amos, and the wide receiver, and right.
I do think Jackson Dart is being overrated.
Did Mississippi State guy write this or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Somebody hates Lane Kiffin. I don't know.
Right. No, I'm not big on Dart either. He would probably be on my list.
I mean, I think he's a second-round talent that's being talked about as a first-round pick, and I
don't see special traits either.
Tight end Harold Fannin from Bowling Green.
I couldn't agree more on that one.
He's
a lot of manufactured
really light.
A lot of manufactured touches. Very straight line-ish. He doesn't come out of his breaks real well.
Defensive lineman Kenneth Grant from Michigan.
I mean, if I had to make that argument, it would be his buddy got most of the double teams and he benefited from his situation, but I think the tools are crazy.
Linebacker Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma. Made a lot of plays. I mean, my initial linebacker ranks, I think he was number 5. Yeah.
I could be convinced he's 8. I mean, I don't feel strong about him.
Right. Wide receiver Matthew Golden from Texas.
Maybe if we're just talking about he's clearly the best receiver in this draft and he's awesome. He wouldn't be the best receiver in most drafts.
Right.
I mean, I like him a lot, but he's not Jamar Chase. I mean, he's not Neighbors, I mean, so that way maybe he's overrated for wide receiver ones.
Running back Quinshawn Judkins from Ohio State, who used to be at Ole Miss.
That's a good point. There might be something going on here, yeah. I did not write this list, nor do I have a bias against Ole Miss. I mean, Judkins is fine. I don't think he plays quite as fast as he timed.
I don't think so either. I think the time that he ran was kind of surprising.
It shocked me, yeah. I saw him get caught a few times. It was late in the year, and they were played 100 games. Yeah. Maybe he was a little worn down. But
quarterback Tyler Shuck from Louisville.
Not going to agree with on that one.
And edge rusher Jack Sawyer from Ohio State.
I think that's the best one ever. Yeah. I think he is massively overrated. I can't imagine a team using a second-round pick on him.
The 10 Combine Workout Warriors. Nick Emuari,
sure.
Safety from South Carolina. Offensive tackle Armand Membo from Missouri.
I'd say Membo would be the O-lineman that stood out the most.
Edge rusher Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
These are no-brainers, yeah, but need to be repeated.
Defensive lineman Ty Robinson from Nebraska.
That one was the most surprising of the group.
I was surprised that he ran and did everything as well as he did.
Really well.
Yeah, because he was productive too.
Right.
Defensive back Darian Porter from Iowa State.
He's almost like Enuari in terms of just rare stuff.
Offensive lineman Jared Wilson from Georgia.
Yeah, he kind of showed up. We mentioned those Georgia O-linemen.
Wide receiver Matthew Golden from Texas.
Yeah, he doesn't play like a 4.29.
4.29 is flying.
Right? That's Tyreek stuff, you know.
Wide receiver Jalen Noel from Iowa State.
He had a really good showing.
Yeah.
And all, changed everything.
Bashal Tutin, the running back from Virginia Tech.
It wasn't surprising, but it was a great showing.
Yeah. And then tight end Thomas Fadone from Nebraska.
Okay. Yeah, he had a good showing too. A mid-round guy.
Yeah. The 10 safest players outside of round one.
Okay.
Wide receiver Jaden Higgins from Iowa State.
Okay. I
think he's a pretty safe prospect.
Yeah.
He does a lot of good stuff.
I heard something just recently that he had an unbelievable amount of defensive pass interference calls against him, which totally adds up.
I can see it. Yeah.
Right.
Safety Andrew Makuba from Clemson.
I can see that too. We brought him up just recently.
Tight end Mason Taylor from LSU.
I think that's some of these. Dad was a Hall of Famer and been around the game.
Uncle's a Hall of Famer.
Right. You're not going to be overwhelmed by the league.
Cornerback Quincy Riley from Louisville.
Okay.
I think he's going
to
be a good player.
I thought of him in that lot, but I'd gladly take him in fourth. I think that's when I'd start considering. I'd be real happy in the fifth.
Yeah. Quarterback Kyle McCord from Syracuse.
I don't know about that. He might throw a million picks.
Yeah, I don't know if he's safe.
Safe was not the word I would use for him.
Wide receiver Jack Beck from TCU.
I agree with that.
He's going to make plays.
He's real solid.
He might never be a star, but he's going to make plays for you.
Like in a perfect NFL system, he's your third best pass catcher.
Yeah.
And that's great.
That's great. Yeah. Right. Safety Rayon Lane from Navy. He's a really good, he's a good athlete.
Yeah.
McGonaghy.
Okay.
From Rutgers.
Yeah, really plays hard.
Offensive lineman Jalen Rivers from Miami. We just
snagged him. Okay. Maybe that's if he's not a tackle, he's a guard.
He's going to play somewhere.
End up being useful for you somewhere.
Linebacker Jay Higgins from Iowa.
Okay. Solid.
10 riskiest players in the top 50. Quarterback Jalen Milroe, Alabama.
Sure, absolutely.
Defensive lineman Walter Nolan from Ole Miss.
Okay. If you're worried about off the field or character or whatever.
Edge rusher James Pierce from Tennessee.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
He doesn't really play the run, and he's quite thin.
Wide receiver Savion Williams from TCU. I haven't seen anybody that has him in the top 50 anymore.
Yeah, I'd say some of these. I'm not sure Milroe goes in the top 50. I'm not sure Williams goes in the top 50. Williams doesn't really have a home.
Linebacker Carson Schlesinger from UCLA.
I don't think that one's risky.
It's really 1 year production.
Yeah, there's only 1 year. That's 100% true.
Edge rusher Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
No doubt.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Defensive back Siobhan Ravel from East Carolina.
Just don't know enough.
Yeah. And I
makes them risky.
Torn ACL. You don't know what he's going to come back with. Kenneth Grant.
Some of his games are against really bad teams.
Well, and there's that. Yeah. Kenneth Grant, the defensive lineman from Michigan.
I guess. I don't know how he could really bust out, though. It's not like his effort's bad or, he's going to eat himself out of the league.
Safety Nick Emuari from South Carolina.
For where you pick him.
I get it.
I get that, yeah.
And then Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame.
Based on the
injury stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Finally, the 10 most versatile players.
Okay.
Jalen Walker from Georgia, the linebacker. Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU.
Okay.
Do a lot of different stuff with him.
Yeah.
Malachi Starks, a safety out of Georgia.
He's not just a free or anything, right?
Jalen Rivers.
Okay.
Offensive lineman from Miami.
Yeah, he might be a tackle.
Nick Emuari from South Carolina.
Yeah, he does linebacker stuff and all that.
Offensive lineman Donovan Jackson from Ohio State.
He showed he could play left tackle for the Buckeyes. That's not
bad. LaQuint Allen, the running back out of Syracuse.
Phenomenal receiver.
He might be a slot.
He might be a slot. Yeah, I was going to say returner.
Tight end Tyler Warren, Penn State.
Yeah, he throws passes. They use and line him up all over the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's definitely versatile.
Yeah. Defensive back Jacob Parrish from K-State.
Not just a slot.
Yeah, he can play outside. He's tiny.
He's small, but he's feisty and does it pretty well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it every snap.
St. Estrell showed last year that you can do it.
Yeah, you can get away with it.
Yeah. And edge rusher Olafemi Oladejo, I should say, from UCLA.
Some of these linebacker turned edges that are on that list. I mean, Walker.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I want him playing linebacker in the league, though.
Yeah, I hear you.
I definitely have Barron on that list, too.
Right. Anyways, that's the list there from some of the lists from the Draft Digest. You can check that out. Matt participated in that, even though you won't find
my
his
favorite
name
part
in
about it is the draft ditties on each team. Where I just go to draft history and I stare at them and I find trends. I come up with 32 of them. They're fun.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, ESPN's Ben Solak has put together a thing here where 2025 quarterback mock draft. The team fits through 7 rounds.
Yeah, I did scan this.
I have not looked at it yet, but I am interested here. Obviously, he's
just kind of putting landing spots and what round would make sense and where they all end up when it's all said and done.
He has Cam Ward at number 1 overall. I think that's
slam dunk, done.
Pencil that in. He has Shedeur Sanders going 3rd to the Giants.
I would not consider it, but I would consider it more if I were them, if I only had Carter to pick from and not Hunter. But I still don't see it happening.
I think if Carter were clean right now, I'm taking Carter.
Over Sanders, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Me too.
But I could see where picking at 3, they'd be like, all right, we're going to take Sanders now. We get an early 2nd-round pick. We'll get an edge rusher there.
I don't even think they need it.
They don't even need an edge. That's the other thing.
That's the thing. It's like, that's why I was saying.
If it's like, Hunter here, you just take Hunter.
And even if he only plays one way for you, he helps somewhere.
Yeah.
Where
because you're kind of in no man's land here, like with the other guys.
I really want to trade Thibodeau? Not really. I just traded for Burns.
Am I going to take Mason Graham?
No.
Probably no.
Right. I mean, their D tackles aren't bad either. I mean, if there was Joe Alt sitting there, all right, I'll take him. But quarterback's the need.
Yeah, they don't need a left tackle, so they're not taking Will Campbell.
Right, yeah. I mean, Membo probably won't be the pick.
So in that situation, Sanders makes sense at 3.
As bad as they are, they're not a million holes on the team either.
Yeah.
I mean, they just have bad quarterback play.
Round 2, pick number 33, Jackson Dart to the Browns.
And he's not like projecting trades or any of that stuff.
Right, he's just saying this is where they should go.
Like I bet Browns fans, which probably don't have a whole lot of them listening at the moment, would gladly say, I'll trade my first 2 picks for Hunter and Dart. I'm not a Dart fan, but I could see where I bet the organization would do it right now.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask their GM, would you give me your first 2 picks for Dart and Hunter? Yeah.
Yeah. With no moving around?
Don't do a thing? Yeah. I'll take it.
Round 2, pick 52, which used to be the Steelers pick. Tyler Shuck from Louisville goes to Seattle.
Makes sense. I mean, his age sometimes makes me wonder what teams would matter. In Seattle, it wouldn't matter at all to me.
Is he the same age as?
I'm saying they're probably about the same age. Right. He might be better in a year. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think that's a great spot.
Round 3, pick 83, Steelers pick, Jalen Milroe.
I'm in on that. I mean,
I'm
at that price,
perfectly happy taking him at 83.
Absolutely. I mean, deep down, I don't think he'll get there. We talked about him a ton yesterday and made some waves, don't get me wrong. But the fact that he was invited to the draft, Willis and Corral were invited to the draft too.
Right.
I mean, quarterbacks
are different.
They're different. It doesn't mean he's definitely going in the first round.
No, no, definitely not. Again, I said, like they put out their 30 invitations or however many they give out, and 12 guys said yes.
Right.
12.
I mean, he's a big name dude.
They want people in that green room.
They want Alabama's quarterback.
And they want eyes on the TV, and the quarterbacks get the eyes. That's why you invite the quarterbacks, even if they're not first-round guys. It might not even be a second-round guy.
Right. Like, we didn't think Willis would fall as far as he did right before the draft.
Yeah.
But he was not guaranteed a first-round pick either, let alone Corral.
If the draft were to fall this way, if it were 1, 3, the top pick, those 4 guys are off the board. We've now taken those 4 quarterback-needy teams out of the equation. I could see Milroe sliding a little bit.
Yeah, then who else is interested?
Who are the next?
I mean, Browns and Giants are out of the mix. Tennessee's obviously out of the mix.
Right. Would New Orleans take one?
Maybe. Well,
But
Kellen Moore came from the Eagles. He could definitely see some Jalen Hurts there. So maybe that would be one. I can't imagine McVay would want him.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think that's what he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's a certain type.
Yeah.
So who would want
They don't have any
Miller?
picks in between there.
That's the thing, too. Right.
They get their first-round pick and then nothing until the 90s.
So I guess they wouldn't even have a shot at him anyways.
Yeah, they would have to trade up. They don't have the picks to do that.
I bet we come with a team or two.
So if the draft were to fall this way, I could see that happening.
If those 4 quarterback-needy teams all got one, yeah.
Yeah. Then you're looking at round 4, pick 131, the Saints taking Kyle McCord.
Okay. I mean, they could kind of just look at it with Rattler and say, well, I hope one of these two is decent.
And they've still got a quarterback there. They still got Carr.
Yeah, Carr.
And he could learn from. He's kind of like Carr.
Only that's fine.
He's more of a risk taker than Carr.
Yeah. But that's fine value too.
Yeah. Round 6, pick 187. The Vikings take Will Howard.
I don't know if I'd want 2 puppies in the room together. I mean, I'd rather have a veteran better on the block backup. But I mean, if you're looking at him as a backup, I would have given him to the Raiders with Chip Kelly.
Round 6, pick 190. The Rams take Riley Leonard.
Okay. I don't think he throws it as well as McVay wants, but I think that's about the neighborhood Leonard goes.
Yeah.
And I think he's throwing the ball better than people give him credit for, too. He's okay.
I thought he looked good at the combine throwing the football.
Yeah.
Round 6, pick 211. The Dallas Cowboys take Quinn Ewers.
I wonder, they wouldn't after trading for Milton now, though.
Probably not, but he's local.
I mean, we're talking about 6th and 7th round picks.
7th round pick, and, does Milton, is he guaranteed
It's not
anything?
like they gave up the farm for Milton either.
Then you're looking at 3 intriguing undrafted free agent fits. He has Hunter Deckers from Iowa Western going to the Dolphins.
I've heard the name, and I know nothing about the guy, but I've heard a couple people
Iowa Western
you're right. I've heard a couple people say this dude's okay. Where do they have him go?
To the Dolphins.
Okay. If he's that type.
Dylan Gabriel, who goes undrafted, goes to the Commanders.
Okay. He gets linked to the Dolphins a lot, just style.
Oh, they're both lefties.
Well, they're both quick processors, too, but they're also little lefties, yeah.
And Detroit takes a chance on Curtis Rourke from Indiana.
Great.
They've already done that.
It's kind of the Hooker
2
move.
years ago with Hooker.
Right. You just sit him a year and see what happens, and Goff's not young.
He's not.
Yeah. I mean, they have a lot invested in him, but they're not looking – these are undrafted free agents. They don't think that's going to take you to the Super Bowl.
Not going to move the needle.
Right.
But interesting. If Rourke doesn't get drafted –
oh, I'd be all over him.
But he's not going to do anything for you.
I know.
You're just going to eat him for a year.
You're going to eat him for a year.
And you have to carry that. I don't know.
Right.
It's tough.
Undrafted, you don't necessarily have him for 4 years either.
Right. That's tough.
It is tough. But I'd like to keep my hands on him. But, it's going to be tough to do anything with him for a while.
Yeah. But Milroe at 83 is I'd be very intrigued with that.
Now you're talking.
I'm not, and a lot of people were with me on the message board on this, Matt. They were not in on your trading up to get Milroe.
I'm just crossing my mind. I mean,
you think about stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, you think about all kinds of stuff this time of year. You try to run the scenarios through your head. The one thing we didn't do is I didn't sit here and say, "Oh, Matt, you're an idiot. That's stupid."
No, it makes no sense at all. Right? If you think he could be the man, not just a guy, the man. If you think that's possible,
Because
how can I make that happen?
We're adults. We talk through things. We don't just immediately jump off the handle as, that's stupid.
Oh, my favorite one, since I've been on this Milrow kick for the last 3 or 4 days, there's no way Tom and his staff could develop him. They can't develop quarterbacks.
Based on what?
I was going to say, because Pickett isn't a superstar. I mean, like, what are we going off of here?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
No, I don't either, but,
that's a wrap, Jack.
Some of the narratives that get put out there. Steelers can't develop a quarterback. Mike Tomlin's never done it.
He had Ben Roethlisberger.
It's not even the same guys on the coaching staff.
Right.
Like, the guys on the coaching staff have all changed.
They've only used one pick in the first 2 rounds on a quarterback.
And
it'd be different if it's the Bears.
You got a different, quarterback coach in here. You got a different offensive coordinator than what you had when you drafted Kenny Pickett, than what you had when you drafted Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, I mean
and he's developed fine for a 3rd-round pick. People want to start him, but they haven't developed.
You're 0 for 1. It'd be like if Tony Gwynn grounds out the shortstop his first at bat. That guy's never.
He stinks.
Yeah, right.
Terrible.
Right, no chance.
No chance at all.
I don't get it.
Anyways, that's going to do it for today's show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline and making sure the sound sounds good, and for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure that our video gets up onto YouTube. Give us a thumbs up there. You can watch the show there. You can also hear us every day from 4 to 6 p.m. on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app, get the show downloaded directly to your phone in that way. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.